emotionally, they're relying on you emotionally, and when it should be the other way around. And it's very hard to get rid of that. When you grow up, you're finding yourself resentful almost in a way because you're the one who emotionally hasn't been supported by them. It's still doing it since from a very early age. So how did you find all that?
That's only come in like the last 18 months, doing like group therapy with other people with childhood trauma. They're also like trying to heal from their childhoods, their narcissistic parents, their alcoholic parents, their neglectful parents. Being able to like give support and also get support from them, and get support from someone who's not like this paid professional who I trust, but it's different getting it from like someone else who's been there. I think the exercises I do in this specific childhood trauma group therapy, it's really let me let out all my grief, all my sadness about it, all my anger at mom, anger at dad, anger at all of mom's family for like not swooping in and plucking me and my sister out of there and being like, it stops here. It's still sort of like a dream I have that I'm working on, that like someone will like come save me, someone will come notice.
Miguel, thank you for joining me today on the Lived Experience podcast. I think you commented on one or two of the videos, and I thought I might as well it would be great to reach out to you. Obviously, you've got a lived experience in this area, so it's great to have someone from America on to talk about it. I think you commented on one of Missy's episodes using America as well. And it's great to get your perspective from over there as well. And I'd love to ask you a whole bunch of questions today. So let's first off start with your lived experience. So do you want to share with us about your lived experience, and why did you comment on some of those videos on the channel? What prompted you to do that?
Sure, yeah. So happy to be here and to be talking with you, Joel. Yeah, for me, my lived experience is I grew up with a mother with paranoid schizophrenia. And I made an audio sort of thing coming up on 10 years ago now on YouTube, where I sort of talked about growing up with mom. It was like this big family secret and everything. And I just felt so alone with it. And commenting on your videos, and I've met, weirdly, another Australian person who also has a mother with schizophrenia, and connecting with them. And it's like, hey, here are all these other people who are like talking about it and who are trying to like make a community about it and find other people who are talking about it. And I'm like, it's taken 10 years of feeling like I'm the only one who's like out here airing the dirty family laundry out on the public internet. And I'm like, yeah, let me talk to these other people, man.
No, that's great. And thanks for letting us know about that. And with that, because I want to ask you more about your mum's condition, because that's something I know, bipolar disorder, I'm familiar with that, but I've interviewed people with parents who've had schizophrenia, but do you want me to tell us specifically what to you is that condition, and how did your mum's condition affect you? What sort of behaviors or what sort of things happen?
Oh, sure. So for me, paranoid schizophrenia, when I think of like the big symptoms my mom had, it was like distrust of everybody. She would always fight with her siblings. My mom was one of 10, and she immigrated here from the Philippines, as did my dad. She would like fight with my dad all the time. One of the things I talk about in my audio, which I haven't listened to until like recently, I talk about going to the grocery store with mom and like my little sister, like a live-in housekeeper as well. We would all go to the grocery together, and we'd be in like the bread aisle, and it would be on me being the oldest of the two of us. And she'd be like, oh, which bread is okay? Or she'd say something like that. And I'd pick a bread that we had chosen another week, and she'd say something like, oh, that's the one that's okay, huh? In this sort of like accusatory tone, not like accusing me of being on the side of them, but like, oh, that's how it's going to be this week. And like, I remember, I don't know, being like 9, 10 is when these memories happen, and feeling like, this isn't right, but like I want to take care of my mom. I love my mom, but like I don't know. It's only just now that I'm like really understanding like the weight of that responsibility of like being the okay man to be like, yeah, this bread, this is okay. Having like the final say there for little Miguel was a lot.
Now, did anyone explain to you about your mum's condition growing up? Were you ever sort of sat down with anyone and said, all right, your mum has this and this is how she may behave? And was that ever explained to you growing up?
I'm remembering, whenever I'm asked that question, I remember a moment in my grandmother's house. She lived like a few towns over It was after like an explosion my mom had at like her siblings or something, or probably telling her, hey, you got to get some help. You got to, your kids need you to get help and everything. And I remember just crying there on the stairs, being hugged by one of mom's older siblings telling her, hey, mom's sick. She has something called schizophrenia and she's sick. She needs lots of help and like help from you guys and everything. I don't remember like ever being told, here's like what that means or something. Just knowing that like mom is sick and remembering like I got that word from like one of mom's siblings, and then no like more description about it. Like I'm sure growing up I heard that word used in like TV shows and media and all like the scary stuff that people put in there and everything. But I remember after that not really like wanting to look it up because it was like too painful and too scary. And it wasn't until like my first or second year at college, going away to college, and I started seeing my therapist, a therapist from the college for the first time, and like feeling safe enough there with that, therapeutic relationship and bringing it up again. And I think he probably talked about the stories you told me about your mom. These are like in line with the symptoms of schizophrenia and stuff. Yeah, but really no one from the family sitting down and being like, hey guys, your mom is schizophrenia. This is what it means, feeling like still in the dark about it. We still don't talk about it really today.
How much difference do you think that would have helped just actually then knowing and labeling it so you could have maybe got some information? Because I think for me, looking back, similar for me, we knew my mum had bipolar, but we never was explained anything about it, or there was nothing spoken about it. It was sort of just pushed under aside, and that was just sort of what we had to live with. So I presume there's a lot of people listening into this would have had exactly the same experience. And I sort of just think how much difference it would have made to you, and especially myself, if someone sitting down when you're younger and sort of going, really explaining what this thing is and then what's going to happen and what to expect and how you can help is probably the big thing. So, and also I should ask you, what sort of help was available for you? I'm not too familiar with the system in the US, but what happened, like if your mum's having an episode or something, what is available to be done?
Yeah, on the help that's in the US, I don't know. I still don't know. They never like reached out for help. It was always just very hush hush. I remember at one point, mom agreed to go on medication. She was unmedicated for most of my life growing up with her before like we went to live with our dad full time. And I know she's unmedicated now, but I remember one time she must have gone away and gone on meds or something. But yeah, whenever like she would have an episode or like we had to get a restraining order on her in high school, and that was really hard. And whenever she'd like come to the house and everything, we would just have to call the police, which I know now in 2023 in America is like the last thing you want to do. They're not trained to do that. They might shoot them and kill them. But that's what we did growing up because she just wouldn't leave, wouldn't take the hint and everything. So I really don't know what's available. I was recently invited to like be on the board of a community mental health organization here in New Jersey called NAMI. I'm sure you've heard about NAMI from other American people, maybe. I think it's National Alliance on Mental Illness or something like that. There's different chapters in each state. And I started going to their family support Zooms recently. And I gave a talk there too. And one of the ladies was like, I think she's the president now. She's like, would you like to be on the board? So I guess there I'll be learning about what's available for other people. I'm hoping to talk about like the first part you asked about, Joel, like, yeah, what do kids need? That's sort of like my mission. Because I feel like I wish there was like some place my family could go where they could be like, hey, these professionals are going to be the ones to tell you what's going on. What is bipolar? What is schizophrenia? Here's what's happening to your mom. Here are resources for your mom. And I feel like the big missing piece is like, here's resources for you. My friend who I was talking about, who's Australian, her name's Sandra Lau, she found this website. I wonder if you're familiar with it, that the Australian government had this program. It shut down like in the mid-2010s that was focused on like teens with a parent with a major mental illness. And it was like, these resources are for you. This website is for you, the teens. And like what are you dealing with growing up, with school, with puberty, with like homework and everything? And on top of it, having a mom or a dad or a parent who's like not normal and who's not there, you know? So I really wish there was, I guess that's what I want to be. And that's why I have a lot of respect for you and everybody else talking about it, to be like the people who aren't family, who are talking about the painful stuff and what it was like to like let those little kids out there know that like they're not alone. Because when you're little and like this stuff's happening, it's like, yeah, you want somebody to be like, hey, this is what's going on, you know?
Absolutely. For sure. Completely relates to what you said. And over here, yeah, there was a website, but there's some really good organizations in we call them states here. So I live in Victoria. There's one called Satellite Foundation. And I've had a lot of those guests on. They just, all they do is help kids and young people who have those situations. That's all they do, which is fantastic. And they do like camps and stuff. And yeah, and they're really, really good. And Rose I've had on before, and a few of the satellite people. But they get a lot of government funding, which is great, because governments over here are finally starting to twitch onto it only in 2020 sort of time about, we call them young carers here. So a lot of kids who live in a house, might be a family member with cancer or mental illness or whatever, they tend to be forgotten about a bit. So there's a lot of organizations here which are now young carers focused, and they get funding, which is great. The Satellite Foundation is a really good one, because I agree with you. Like for me, it's like, you know, if you look at all the PDFs online in regards from universities and colleges regarding outcomes for children who grow up in these situations, they're far more behind the eight ball, and a lot of PTSD and stuff like that. And I think the PTSD level is actually like double that of war veterans or something, right? So it's way higher. And you just think long-term wise, if you have some intervention where you can get these kids into some programs or some mentorship or something at a young age, it might be the difference between someone going this way, where they might go be positive that way. For me, that was the big thing, you know, like when you grew up, you didn't have any real role model. Like you just had a parent who was mentally unwell, and my mum was a single mum, so we didn't have anyone else. And then that's what you're shaping your worldview around, is those sorts of behaviors and stuff like that. And it's not until you get out and when you're a bit older and you realize, geez, that was not a normal experience. And then you think, well, you didn't have that, especially when you're a young man, like, you know, you're not fully developed to like you're 25 in your brain and stuff, and you can so easily go off the track, and there's no real support. And I almost feel as though if your parent was a drug addict or in jail or something, you'd get a lot more support than what you would being in our situation.
100%.
And I've always thought that. Yeah. And it's slowly over here in Australia starting to sort of get the attention it does. That's the other reason why for this podcast, is because when I did a lot of research around this stuff in Australia, there's a massive, in America, I think America's really good from the therapy standpoint. Like a lot of people are really, there's no stigma around getting therapy and stuff like that. Whereas over here there is still. But in Australia, there's a lot of awareness though around depression and anxiety. So we have a lot of big organizations who just focus on that. But that's really it. There's nothing about schizophrenia, bipolar, or young carers. So definitely the point of this podcast is to share stories around bipolar, schizophrenia, and young carers, because that's where there's no gap. But we know that there's a lot of people who have those conditions. And as you said, it's still something families don't want to talk about. The parents embarrassed about. They don't want you to tell anyone about it and stuff like that. And that's what happened to me. I didn't tell anyone about our situation, because my mum was like, don't tell anyone I've got this, right? And then you don't have any help. But when people found out, it was when she was in a psychiatric ward, and that was another story. But from your perspective as well, back to you, Miguel, about how did your family and your dad deal with this situation? So I can imagine it'd be very, very tough. So my mum was not a single parent for the whole time, but around the age of 4, you know, my dad couldn't deal with it, and that's understandable now. But from your perspective, with your dad and your other siblings, how did everyone go dealing with your mum's situation?
Man, yeah, my dad just kept being like, I don't know, she's just stubborn-headed and just won't listen. Really just like wanting to like fight fire with fire, which, you know, is not what's going to work in that situation. Even for us, like there was never like, oh yeah, talking about therapy. Oh yeah, my kids need support. Let me get them professional help. I feel like it was like, oh, they're getting good grades in school. Look, they just sit there and they're nice and quiet. They don't say anything. Look how well behaved they are. And it's like a professional would have been like, there's something wrong with your kids. They shouldn't be like that quiet all the time, you know? Like they seem well behaved, but it's like that's not how kids should be, you know? And with mom's siblings, I don't know, that they sort of just threw their hands up itself. For how it is right now is they're the ones who like take care of her. She lives a couple towns over. I haven't seen her in like over 10 years. I still feel
Oh,
like
wow.
scared going to see her because like it's too much to seeing her. Like, how is she going to look different physically now? Like,
Yeah.
seeing how deteriorated she is mentally, like, can I handle it? And like, I'm not working. I'm like going to go to night school in January to get like another certification to try and get like a tech job, a coding job, and like get some, income and some stability. But like, I don't know. I feel like going to see mom, like, that's going to be a lot, So like, I'm doing solo therapy now and group therapy now. But yeah, growing up, no support, just like do well in school. Dad left, and then we saw dad like on the weekends for a while. Dad tried to get custody of us growing up, but the courts here, they're like, well, the mom's alive and conscious. It goes with the mom, which I get. Moms are so important, but like the mom's not there. That's also, not good. And it wasn't until mom like voluntarily gave up custody that, we went to live with dad full time. But yeah, as for how they handle it, I think they're also like just at a loss. And part of me is like, well, hey, they're the ones taking care of her now. I don't have the funds or the emotional space to do it. They're adults, so it's in their hands now and in their hands back then too. Yeah.
Now, when did you learn to prioritize yourself, Miguel? Because, as you said, everyone growing up loves their parents stuff, and I found there's a lady called Tamara Hill who's got a really good YouTube channel. I find watching her stuff, and she was saying about a lot of kids who grow up in these situations that the roles are reversed emotionally. So even though the parent may be caring for you, they're paying for the bills or whatever they're doing, emotionally, they're relying on you emotionally, and when it should be the other way around. And it's very hard to get rid of that when you grow up. You're finding yourself resentful almost in a way because you're the one who emotionally hasn't been supported by them. You're still doing it, since from a very early age. So how did you find all that?
That's only come in like the last 18 months doing like group therapy with other people with childhood trauma. And like, none of them have parents who have schizophrenia, but like, they're also like trying to heal from their childhoods. They're narcissistic parents. They're alcoholic parents. They're neglectful parents. And like, I don't know, being able to like give support and also get support from them and get support from someone who's not like this paid professional who I trust, but it's different getting it from like someone else who's been there. And yeah, I think the exercises I do in this specific childhood trauma group therapy, it's really let me let out like all my grief, all my sadness about it, all my anger at mom, anger at dad, anger at all of mom's family for like not swooping in and plucking me and my sister out of there and being like, it stops here. These kids are coming with me. That something's got to change. It's still sort of like a dream I have that I'm working on, that like someone will like come save me. Someone will come notice. And I'm thinking about what you said earlier, where like, with kids, it could go one way or the other. If like you're just in that situation and you just think, oh, I'm just not like trying hard enough to like try harder in school or like push my feelings down better about mom. I just keep fucking things up. I'm just but having somebody there be like, this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with like a literally impossible situation. It's not you making mistakes. This situation is like unworkable. So yeah, having like someone tell a young boy, a little girl, a small child that, so like they're not going through being like, like I didn't like crystal ball forecast that mom was going to get mad that we bought, I don't know, this other brand of thing instead. Oh, I should have been like watching her more closely or something, or I shouldn't have been so loud that day. Like having somebody put it all in perspective, man. Yeah, I want that to exist for kids today, kids in the future.
Absolutely. Same here. And I think what you said, I think it's a really good point in regards to if you just need someone to sort of tell you, unfortunately, no one's going to come and save you, because like I was the same as you. I used to think I'm going to get saved, or the universe is going to reward me because I've went through 18 years of bad here, and I'm going to have all this good luck come on me, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go around thinking like that, and you learn really quickly, that's not the way the world works, and they don't No, the universe is indifferent to you. They don't know, it doesn't know your circumstances. So you've got to really work hard like anyone else, and really, you've got to go out there and get it. I think telling someone that you can use this tough situation as your fuel, because you're going to have way more resilience in you than anyone else you come up against in the workplace or in a small business or whatever. So really making sure that they understand, well, it's a tough situation you're going through, but you're getting mental training that no one else will get, and that you really need to focus on something to pull yourself out of where you are. Now, this sort of thing is, what that thing is it could be business, it could be someone might be into a musical instrument, it could be whatever it is. But I think having that, knowing that from an early age that you've got to really focus and pull yourself out of the situation might mean you focus more on your school, or you've maybe start doing your business from the age of 18, whatever it is. I think if you have that someone come in at an earlier stage, you're not going to get that help from your parents or your parent. They're not going to tell you that. So you need someone to come in at that early intervention stage and say, right, if you're going to be a success or whatever you deem success to be, you're the one responsible for it. No one's going to come and help you. And I think once I personally learned that, my early 20s or my mid 20s, my life improved tenfold. I've been very lucky where I am now. But I think if we both had that when you're younger, it would have made things a lot easier, we could have got maybe somewhere else so
much easier. So much easier. Just having somebody be like, it's not your fault that like all these things are happening, and it's like, it's harder to hear it as a man in your 20s, right? Rather than like you're a boy, you've got like your future ahead of you. And like, I wanted to ask you, like, did you feel like a difference when you went to friends' houses and see how they were with their mom? Or like,
I didn't want to go home.
Yeah, it's like, there's not this like weird cloud, this heaviness here, like seeing them interact with their mom. Like, I wanted to be like a really good boy when I was like at my friends' houses, just for like some of that like nice energy from like a parent who like cares, and then going home, it was just like, back to work, back to like feeling scared all the time,
Yeah, and that's a great point. I never really brought friends over at all. I never wanted to go home, be home, so I was always out. So completely agree with you as well. It wasn't that my mum was a bad. She was just very, very strange, and that was what it was. But in regards to when did you end up living with your dad? What age? What age did you get out of that situation?
I think it was right before high school. Yeah. Because I remember sitting with my mom. I'd been accepted to different private Catholic schools here because of some tests I took. And we had started living with dad full time during that selection process. And mom was like, I really want you to go to such and such school because all your friends are going there. I want you to be with your friends. And ultimately I did. And I wish I'd gone to like a better school. It was not like the good school in the area. But yeah, it was like, what's that? How old are you there? I think 12, 13, roundabout there.
Very 40 years, you're becoming a teenager. So how did you find living with your dad compared to your mum? Was it just the weight off your shoulders, or was it still, you had a lot of trauma from that situation, or how did you find the shift from living with your dad?
Yeah, looking back now, it was like a hefty mix of both. Because like when we'd see dad on the weekends after living with mom, dad was like the break. We'd go out to eat. We wouldn't have to worry dad was going to fight with somebody at the restaurant, at the store. You could play video games at dad's place and everything. And like dad was like more normal. But like as time went on, and like a lot of the sadness I've had to process is like dad's not a fully like safe parent either. I tried to bring like my problems with like being sad about girls, or like being sad about how mom is and like all that. And dad would just be like, just don't think about it. Just like pray to God, or like, you'll get over that girl. And it's like, all the yearning to be like, let me connect with mom, and mom can't do it. Now we're with dad, the parent I look forward to being with. And I'm trying to like bring my problems and everything. And like, he doesn't do it either. And it's like, that's like another sort of heartbreak that I've just had to like recently process, that like, neither parent could like really be there for me, But at first it was like, I'm with dad. Dad's, way better than mom,
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say as well, with your recent stuff with your trauma counseling and things like that, what are some of the things they had you do? How are you going through that process of getting through it? And what sort of maybe changes have you noticed, or that you weren't aware? Like obviously your childhood is so formative on you, and a lot of people just there's a lot of dismissive attitude in Australia. It's just like, oh, just get over it. Everyone's had a bad childhood, and just that's the Australian way. But I think it's when you listen to books like there's a lot of that the Gabriel Matteo, whatever his name is, and stuff like everything your behavior and who you are are based from these events. If you have these events in your life. So what behaviors did you notice that you were doing that you probably maybe have stopped doing or changed? And what are some exercises or things that helped you get to that point?
Sure. Yeah. Behaviors, I don't know, just like going out to like do stuff more. Before I'd be like, oh, I'm not perfect enough. I got to just stay home, and like, I'm too depressed. Let me just not talk to any of my friends. And I got to just like meditate more and like work out more. And like only when like I'm all perfect and I've like formed this armor and like I do more therapy, can I like go and like reconnect with my friends. Whereas now it's like, no, I'm like a pretty great guy to know, and like I'm working on my stuff, and I'm a great guy to like get to know. And I think that came with like all this work in this group therapy, which my group therapist trains under this guy named Patrick Tehan. He like specializes in like childhood trauma stuff, and his specialty is in group work. And the exercises we do, the first one is we make like a family tree of dysfunction. Sort of like you go all the way up to like your grandparents' generation, and you draw all the different relationships. Like, how was your paternal grandmother with your mom? How was your father's sister with your mother's brother? How are all those different relationships? Sort of to like show that like, yeah, your immediate problems with your parents, but like, look at like the wider lens of your family. Like there's dysfunction sort of like all over, and that's sort of just, I don't know, that for me that helped me be like, oh, no one in my family was equipped to like handle this, and they all have like their own problems. Yeah. I'm still mad at them. They should have been like the adults. And maybe you feel this way, Joel, I have to be the one to like feel it and be like, no more. I'm gonna talk about it, because for me it was like, if I don't talk about it, I'm gonna literally destroy myself, and like I don't want it to happen. So I had to like talk about it, and all of them just, they handle it in their own way that's not talking about it, I guess. And so like making that map and presenting it to the group, and then like getting feedback from group members on it, and then seeing like other people's sort of family trees, it's like, I don't know, it makes me feel so much less alone. And even though like the relationships and like the layouts of other people's families are different, it's like, oh, okay, there's someone else talking about this. There's someone else with these weird relationships, What was the second thing we made? I think the second thing we made was like writing a letter to a parent. You choose a parent and you write a letter then, and you sort of like tell them how you really feel. You know how they say like, you don't actually send the letter, you just like sort of get it out. So we put another chair here, I read the letter out, and then sort of like getting feedback from other group mates, and my group mates and the group therapist would also like talk to my parent. And so that was nice in that like, oh, okay, yeah, other people are like also upset at, I chose my dad at my dad, and like having other people like tell them what's what was like also really validating. And sort of the last thing we did, which was really nice, was this anger experiential, where we took this foam baseball bat, I still have mine here, and we'd send like 10 things that we're angry at to both of our parents, our family, and we'd send it to our therapist, and then she would like talk in our ear. This therapy's over Zoom. She'd be, one of my lines was like, you mom for not getting the help you really needed. And the instructions are, you yell that at the top of your lungs. I went to a friend's house to do this because I live in an apartment and the walls are kind of thin, and you like hit the pillow as you do it. And like, as you go, you're sort of like, just like getting this anger that's like been in me for all this time, with like all the different phrases, yelling at mom, yelling at dad, yelling at my sister and everything. And like, I don't know, having like a healthy, supported way to like get that complicated feeling out, But I don't know. I whenever I talk about this stuff, I feel like such a shill for this, but I don't get paid. I pay my group therapist money every week but it's been the thing that's been the most helpful.
And how long have you been doing that for?
Since like, how long? Since like May 2022. So like
Oh, okay.
year and a half. Yeah, coming up on 2 years. Yeah.
And have you found yourself different in a year and a half from doing it?
Yeah, I think just like trying different stuff. Like I went out for like, I love acting, performing. The dream is to like be a guy who gets paid to do like voice acting one day.
You've got a good voice, mate. I was going to say to you at the start, you've got a very good voice for, yeah, it sounds like you could be a voiceover artist, mate. I was going to say at the start. No, but you get absolutely.
You're so kind.
Sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah. But in doing that, I was like, I joined, like, I did a musical. Let me show you. Like I did just Elf the Musical at my local YMCA. And like, I'd never gone out for anything acting before. So just like trying different stuff, like just being out in the world, like not thinking like, oh, I'm not perfect yet. Or like the shame of like, oh, if somebody outside looks at me, they'll see like all the fuck ups I made, how much I let my sister down or like let my mom down. And like today I feel more like, no, little Miguel did the best he could. And like all the mistakes I made, it's because like I didn't have safe adults there, like we've been talking about, to be like, Miguel, this is what's happening to you. This is why you're having these feelings, you know? And just having a lot of love for like little Miguel is like the big thing I'm learning to do in group is like what's helped me just like go back out there in the world to like be like, I'll go to night school in 2024 and like, let me like find a new part-time job and everything like that. So yeah, just like learning to be like the big brother little Miguel needed, you know, for all those years growing up feeling all alone, you know?
Well, jump online, mate. I'm sure there's a lot of YouTube channels so you could use your voice for some voiceover work. There'd be a heap.
Oh, for sure.
But I was going to say though, like with, because yeah, self-esteem is a big thing. A lot of research over here says self-compassion and self-esteem is a big problem with people who grow up in these sort of situations. And self-esteem is everything, right? You know, if you don't think good of yourself, you know, that's, you know, you're punishing yourself all the time. You can't control what other people think of you, but what you think of yourself is really, really important. And that's a really big issue with people who grow up in that situation. But I was going to say as well, yeah, so self-esteem, self-confidence is dramatically improved in the last year and a half doing this, which is fantastic to hear. But also just, you got a lot of, I've got to respect people like you who don't have the ego around getting help, because there's a massive, in Australia, it's a very macho blokey sort of culture, and there's still a lot of stigma around going that. It's really hard for people to go to a psychologist in Australia, especially men. It's really difficult because over here you have to go to a doctor to get a referral, then you've got to go to this thing. So it's a pretty, you know, people don't like doing that. Whereas I think in America, you guys do a hell of a lot better than here, is the culture and therapy. There's no stigma to it, which I think is fantastic. But I was going to say as well, how do you look at your childhood now? Like, how do you frame it? Are you looking at it as a positive, or do you still look at it like, are you still like, I wish I had a different situation because I would have been different? Or how do you sort of frame it to yourself now? What happened? How do you go back there? Are you using certain stories or incidents and for strength, or how do you use it, or how do you look at it?
Yeah, I guess looking back at it now, you know, thinking about like wishing I'd somebody like you were talking about earlier, like, yeah, it's really hard now, but like, you know, you can use it. I'm grateful for like the strength it's given me, but like, it's hard to be like, I'd wish it on somebody else, you know, if they're going to end up so open-hearted and like wanting to help. Like I'd rather somebody have like one or two parents who were like there and like got the help, you know? So I look back on it now, I don't know, really sad for little Miguel. He feels so lonely, and like thinking about what makes you and me, Joel, the ones who like want to talk about it. I don't know, but like I'm grateful for that, and I'm happy to be the one to like break the stigma, break the taboo, be like a cisgender straight guy talking about this stuff so publicly, because no other guys are doing it. And like I'm happy that like I found this role and found courage in it, but like it was also like a lot of pain. And so I'm happy to be doing the work to like shape something I'm proud of out of it. But like, I don't know, if I could like wave a magic wand and like spare Miguel and then my little Miguel and my sister all that pain and give them something more normal. Normal doesn't exist, but you know, something more normal. I think I would. But I'm proud of the guy I am now. But like, you know, yeah, it's just a lot of pain.
For sure. And what do you do? Yeah, moving forward, like for you, you want to, you're talking about, which is fantastic and stuff like that. But for you, what would you think would be some things that could be put in place, whether it be by your government or organizations or whoever, to help people in these situations? What are some things do you think, looking back now, would have helped you? We mentioned a few earlier before, but what's some actual actionable things that you think could be done to help?
Help kids or like help adults like us?
Let's say help kids than adults, because I think adults it's a bit, you go with these events happening here, and then it might be baked for 15 years, and then you think comes out certain ways, and then you go and deep help. So let's start with the young people, the kids. What do you think? Like, let's say you're in a situation with your mum. What do you think could realistically be done? Let's say now, what do you think would have helped you maybe back then?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the description you gave me. I forget the name of the organization that's
Satellite,
Australian government funds.
Foundation.
Yes, Satellite. Something like that. So I'm thinking being a board member of NAMI, New Jersey, being like, because when I looked at the support group for family members of schizophrenia, there's one for siblings, there's one for spouses, and then there's one for family members. And it's like, well, my mom's not my sibling, my mom's not my spouse, so she's a family member. And then when I go to the family member thing, mostly it's parents and their children have schizophrenia. And I'm the only one there being like, oh, but for me, it's my parent. And like the power dynamic is just different when you're like an adult and it is your child versus like you talked about when you're a child and, being with a single mom for as long as we did, your mom's your whole world. You don't want to like, I didn't want people to find out that she was sick. I wanted to hide it because I love my mom and like, I wanted to protect her from stuff. And I just wanted to like be a real good boy for her. But like, it's different when like you're like a parent and, it's your kid that's sick. So it's also feeling kind of lonely in that group, even though they all know what it's like having a loved one with schizophrenia in their life. They don't know what it's like being the kid of one. So having like organizations or like a group where here's all the other kids who want to talk about it. Because I have reached out to other people who are local who have a mom or a dad who has schizophrenia, but like they're not yet at the place where they're ready to like talk about how much it hurt. They're not ready to talk about like how sad they are about it or like what they're doing to rebuild it. And like, I don't want to like force people to talk about it because that's not going to help them. But I'm also very lonely where it's like all these people I meet are in Australia who want to talk about it or in Mexico City. And it's like, I would like local people, local friends who like are ready to talk about it. Who I'm not forcing to talk about it, So for kids, having something where like someone like me could be like, hey, it's really scary. I know you don't know what's going on and you really love your mom, your dad, your parent, but this is what's going on. And it's like a scary thing that's happening, but I want to explain to you what's happening so you know what's going on, and like you're doing the best you can, but like what I wish little Miguel heard, like you're not going to like fix this. There's no like end to it. Like you just got to do the best you can being a little kid, do good in school and stuff. But if something's going wrong with mom, it's not on your shoulders, So a place for kids today to hear that, to know that, I think that'll be big. Yeah.
Absolutely. And why do you think people find it hard to then talk about and share about it? Because I think it's interesting from my perspective. Like, as I said, I respect America in a lot of ways, but especially with the therapy, like you're a really open culture about therapy. Like it's spoken about in TV shows and stuff. And whereas over here, slowly started to become a little thing, but nowhere near what the acceptance is like I feel in America. So I find it odd that people with therapy being so open, but people won't want to talk about that in particular. So why do you think that's the case?
I think it's just so painful. Because like you see a lot of stuff on TV and the holidays are hard of like, or what you said earlier, Joel, where it's like, yeah, but everybody's got a hard childhood. Now, I didn't have hard ones like this, but you don't know what the person went through. What if they were like physically abused? What if they were like sexually abused? What if they got like cigarettes put out on them, hearing some stranger be like, yeah, but everybody got a weird childhood. And it's like, did you have cigarettes put out on you and stuff? It's just so unempathetic. And I think people do it because like they don't want to like look at the reality of it, you know? They don't want to like dive in, and they want to think that they're normal. And like, because I relate to that. I just wanted to be normal. I didn't want to tell any of my friends. I just wanted to be normal. And like, I understand that want, but like, there's also a part of me that like knows now that like, no, you needed to like understand you and like where you came from. And like, there's no understanding like my mom, but understanding the situation I was in, and that like little children deserve parents who are stable. Little children deserve professional help when, you know, it's warranted. And like, I didn't get that. And there's like anger there and sadness there that I had to get out. And I think people are uncomfortable with the reality that like, oh, some people don't get parents that like have their brains, you know, correct, right? In the family Zoom I'm in, a lot of people are like, oh, I try and talk to my friends about like how my daughter or my son or my kids having like a really hard time this week. And they don't understand. And I'm like, yeah, I get why they don't understand, because they don't have to like deal with a mentally ill person in their life. And you're like explaining this really sad thing about life that they don't have in front of them and that they don't deal with. And it's like, you're trying to be like, no, life is very, very unfair. And like, most people they're not equipped to like hear that, you know, unless you've lived it, you know?
For sure. And I was going to say as well, yeah, I think it's very cold. There is some people who might think, oh no, you just can't compartmentalize it and just move on, you know? And then you're right. If someone says something, you know, people who expect that are very unempathetic, or that they've had it happen themselves and they just can't stomach up to do with whatever it is. And I think childhood trauma and trauma just in general is such a topic where, yeah, you people who are empathetic to it will always, you know, understand it, but people who aren't, I really find it hard to understand that they can't see how that would affect someone in certain ways. And, you know, the way you are as a 30-year-old and 25-year-old is definitely shaped by a lot of events when you're 6 and 7 and stuff like that. And to not deal with that sort of stuff, but people who do deal with that sort of stuff, like yourself, you're going through the process now, and, you know, to deal with that stuff takes so much maturity and lack of an ego to do it. And your life will be 10 times better for it than those people who are really cynical about it and just think, oh, you know, you can just compartmentalize and just soldier on and move on. Whereas with 2023 now, we don't have to do that. And we know studies show that you've got to deal with this sort of stuff, because because you want to be a better person, right? You want to be better for your family, all that sort of stuff. So credit to you for having the foresight and having the awareness to deal with that, because not a lot of people do. And I think it's a big problem, but I think I do understand why people don't, because for me, I did not like psychologists and psychiatrists growing up. They were the person who always took my mum away. They were very rude to me, very condescending. I don't like them. I still don't like them. So for me, it's very hard to, but it's a generalization, and obviously not all like that. But for me, that's why I do think some people find that hard to deal with. They just don't want to, I've done that 20 years ago, and then I'm going to move on and wait. But you can't even run that past sort of thing as much as you try.
Yeah.
The way, and
like, I have so much like empathy for those people, because like it's so hard to think about it, you know, because it was so painful. So like, I get why they do it, but like, I don't know, it breaks my heart to like have to like put those people like in a box where it's like they're not ready, you know. And I feel like people like you and me, Joel, and the people you interview, like they're the ones who are like cracking it open, looking at the hard stuff, you know. And like, that's such a tiny minority of people that like, I don't know, it's very precious to me that we're even talking, you know, because I understand how hard it is to really look at it. But it's like, it's a heartbreak when like I hear someone talk about it and they brush it off, and it's like, oh, okay. Then like in my head I go, then I can only trust you so far, because you've not done your own work on yourself. Like, and I've like a lot of love for them in my heart, but it's like, you know, they can only go so far with me, you know?
100%. And I agree. And I think, yeah, just from a sense of wanting to improve as well, you know, you want to, every day you wake up, you want to say, how can I get better at something, right? 1% better, or how can I improve? And I think if you've got this stuff in the past and you haven't dealt with it, like it's such, as you would know, like it's such a major improvement to your life from just being brave enough to tackle this sort of stuff, which is not easy, and it's never going to be easy. But it's such a, how different is your life now from 18 months ago when you started this process for you? Like, how much different is it?
Oh, so much different, so much more like compassion for myself, so much kinder to myself, sleeping better, like taking more risks and everything, not thinking I have to like be perfect and everything. I'm like going out trying to like find these people who also grew up like I did. And like, I'm like reaching out to you and everything like that. And yeah, I'm just not isolating as much. And I think that's big. Yeah. But yeah, for those people who aren't ready, it's like, yeah, like it's hard because like no one else can look inside you, right? There's always like a new skill you could learn, but like no one else can like look through your memories and process them but you. Like going to like talk to somebody, they can't be like, oh yes, now let's go to 1999 and like they can like list out everything happened that every month. You have to be the one to remember it. There's no external help, and like it's painful, but yeah, so worth it. Knowing yourself, your own story.
Absolutely. And a lot of people unfortunately who don't do that, they rely on drugs and alcohol to do that, which is very understandable. I'd say a lot of people who use drugs or alcohol or whatever, but I'd say 99% of them are doing it to escape them having to actually face up to those sorts of things, whether it be depending on the trauma it is, but they're basically running from that with those sorts of things. So to be able to man up and face it like you have is very, very commendable, because a lot of people don't do it and they need to do it, but the reward is there in terms of your life. And I think also limiting beliefs, a lot of limiting beliefs we get from those childhoods, like we might think we don't deserve success or don't deserve love, which is all fictitious garbage, but it's been conditioned from your situation when you're younger, right? And just to be able to get rid of that limiting belief about, you don't deserve success or whatever, it's so important. So amazing job you've done by facing up to that stuff and dealing with it as well. Because how old are you, Miguel? I didn't ask you at the start.
I'm turning 35 soon. Yeah.
Same age as me. So so it's stuff that like, and when you get prepared to the family and stuff, you don't want these things coming up. You want to be as best as person you can be. So what's your hope for yourself moving forward? Is it just something where you're going to keep going every week, or what are you hoping to do? You're going to get involved with the NAPME, the organization. What are you hoping else to do in this area?
Yeah, I guess in the future, getting involved with NAMI, being an advocate for the kids, going to night school, learn how to code, get like a job that pays, a living wage. New Jersey is expensive.
Yeah.
And do like more performing, take improv classes, take more theater classes, and I don't know, keep trying to like make local community happen, because I'm so grateful for like international friends. I'm happy to call you a friend, I hope, Joel, and like Sandra and everything, but like there's nothing like having somebody local that you can count on, and like trying to build, a community of like other people who can get it and who can hold the sadness of my story and similar stories, So that's sort of what I'm looking forward to. I'm like trying to be a voice actor somehow,
Oh, mate, no, you got a perfect voice for it, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you.
YouTube videos, man. I'll tell you what, you could do a heap of baseless YouTube channel. I reckon you can make a fortune with your voice.
Oh, man.
So give it a crack. But I was gonna say, because for me, schizophrenia, like it's still something over here. It's actually in Australia, we like to shorten things, and on the playground, a lot of kids say things. And one of the terms they used to call people was like, they used to say, "Oh, you're a schizo," which is short for schizophrenic, right? It was a slur.
Yeah.
So growing up, you sort of hear those sorts of things, and even now, I think as a condition like bipolar and schizophrenia are two ones, which you only tend to hear really bipolar spoken about, even in America, is generally to say that Kanye West, right? And I still think people just think it's a flippant condition. They think you're either up or you're down, and that's it. You're high or you're low, and there's no in between, or they don't understand what comes with that as well. With schizophrenia, I still think there's really little understanding about the illness and about how difficult that condition is, especially for family members. It's extremely difficult from what I've been speaking to, and it can have a lot of tragedy involved with it, depending. But it's just such a tough illness, especially when the person doesn't adhere to medication. I think it even makes it way tougher. So
Yeah.
with schizophrenia, to you, like, what do you understand the condition as now, or the illness as to you? Like, what is schizophrenia to you?
Yeah. Yeah. And from the sound of it, you have an understanding of schizophrenia as much as I have an understanding of bipolar. I feel like I don't know a whole lot about that. Though one of my favorite stand-up comedians who I saw live recently for the first time, I don't know if you know her, Taylor Tomlinson. She also has she talks about, being bipolar and like her struggles with that stuff. It's very funny. I'll send you trailers to her specials. But yeah, from what I understand, schizophrenia, it's hard going to these family NAMI Zooms. Like, it's hard. Like, I hear mothers talk about how like their child has been like compliant with medication for so long, and then one day it just stops working, and like nobody knows why, and it just stops. And like, how heartbreaking is that? They're doing the thing, they're taking it, and like whatever brain chemistry changed, and like I assume expensive medication is just doing nothing anymore, and now they're unstable again and hearing voices and everything, and like it's so heartbreaking. And like just the paranoia that comes with it, not trusting anybody. For my mom, it was always like the government and like President Bush have an agenda against me and this family. Her agenda was like her word. And like, it was always these big organizations are like out to get her, out to persecute her. So like it makes it hard for like people who are symptomatic to like trust anybody, because everybody could be in on it, So I just understand it to be like a very like isolating and like you can't trust anybody sort of disease. I know there's like schizophrenia without the paranoia. I assume maybe there's less distrust, and I know there's so many variations, but yeah, I know the hearing voices part of it is the biggest. And like, I guess I've never heard them, but I can only imagine that like learning to not trust them, or like they're always there and you can't turn them off, how like destabilizing that is, and like with medication, like I'm on antidepressants and we had to try like one before we landed on one that works for me. And I can only imagine with the antipsychotics you have to go on for schizophrenia, where like you take them and then you got to take them for like a certain amount of time to like be in your bloodstream. And then you're like, okay, now is it working? If it is, if it's not, dealing with the side effects, and then having to try another one, letting the other one filter out, let the new one get all settled in, like that's hard too. And the whole time your loved one's symptomatic. So it's just what a debilitating, like mysterious disease. Like
it is. Medication's a big one. Absolutely. Same thing with my mum. My bipolar, the medication would wear off after 2-3 years. She'd have a manic episode, go on a psychiatric ward. They had to find the right medication, ECT, all that sort of stuff. And then the cycle would happen again. So medication is definitely a huge issue. And I feel for the US, because obviously your medical system's different to here, whereas all that stuff's like it's pretty cheap because of the government. But over there, the cost as well would be quite expensive, I can imagine, to get the appropriate medication.
Yeah. Or even like what I hear about, we never did this with my mom, but I hear in the different Facebook groups I'm in, like, how do I like take away their like, I don't know the words, but like take away their rights and like get them like put in a home, because like they won't take medication, they won't do anything. And like the heartbreak of doing that, of going through the bureaucracy, the red tape, the paperwork, the waiting, and like the doing of it to somebody that you love. Like, what a heartbreaking disease it is.
It's not easy, and that sort of stuff, very, very tough. And there's no handbook for it. And as you said, Facebook groups are really good because people can, you're hearing from the source about what they went through. You really will find much support around that sort of area. And it's definitely very, very tough. And over here we have psychiatric wards and stuff like that, which people still don't really. They know, they might call it something, but they don't know exactly what goes on in there. And when my mum was in there, I met a lot of people with schizophrenia and stuff like that, and they were so medicated up, they were pretty much like zombies, or they had some electroconvulsive therapy, and they were pretty much out of it. But it's a really, really tough condition. Like in terms of hierarchies, from what I know, in terms of conditions and how serious they are, schizophrenia is the number one in terms of this, how serious it is. And you got like your bipolar and your BPD and stuff like that. So it's an extremely serious condition. And I just don't think it gets the attention or the awareness or there is any understanding around it, unfortunately.
Yeah. And just thinking about you being in that psych ward, you know, holding all those feelings by yourself and just thinking about like the sick patient, the sick parent, of course they take all the attention and energy from like all the adults involved and like tiring them out. And it's like, it just makes me more, I don't know, vigorous in being like, yeah, but like, what about the kids? They don't know what the world's like, you know, they don't know what's going on. Like, someone needs to tell them what's going on, you know?
Well, kids are more like the afterthought. You know, the psychologist or the psychiatrist doesn't want to deal with them, quite frankly, from our perspective anyway over here. You know, they're there to deal with the patient, get them in and get them out as much as possible. They don't really care, or they don't really care much about the young people involved, unfortunately.
So heartless. Yeah. So heartless.
Well, it is, because you get, at the end of the day, we're the ones, it's almost negligence in a way, because if you send out a patient from a psych ward early, and they're a risk to the community and their family, and then something happens, like, well, who's liable for that?
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of the mental health systems escape a lot of, I know it's a tough system, but they do escape a lot of liability, and when they do release patients early, or they're negligent in regards to medication levels or whatever. I know it's a very hard and inexact science, but their decisions, or the treating physician, treating psychologists and psychiatrists, treating psychiatrists mainly with medications and stuff, have real impacts. And that's the thing that I don't think they really get, that when you're sending out a parent, especially a parent, to go and look after their children, you better make them all sure that they're on the most appropriate treatment, or they've been kept in long enough to be stable enough to then enter society. Because if they aren't, then they do something. You know, where does the responsibility fall? Which is something here that I haven't really addressed yet. But we do need to have the psychiatrist, especially with medications and treatments, have a bit more empathy towards the people that actually live with the people.
Yeah. The people who are like, they're the first ones that are going to take the brunt of the symptoms when they come, right? The people living in that house. Yeah. Yeah.
And you also do a service for society in a way, because if, you know, I don't know what the roles were for you, but for me, you know, our mum lived for her kids. So she told us many times the owners knew to commit suicide because she had us kids around. So that was pretty much the reason why she stayed around for so long. But in your situation as well, like, you know, just having your mum, like, just, you know, you guys there, you sort of almost the reason for them, you know, to try and stay on track as best as possible, which I think is really, really important as well, because it gives some sort of, a family is really, really important, gives some structure to them. And that's my reason for trying to stay as best as I can, because they don't have that reason. You know, who knows what will happen.
Yeah. For me, I just wish it also extended to my mom to give her courage to be like, and I'm going to go on these scary medications that I don't know what's going to happen, because I care about my kids so much. I'll do this scary thing. And like, I'm angry, and I wish my mom had that bravery, you know? I'm
the same as you, Miguel. My mum would do the medication. I'm better now. I don't need to take it, and then not take it, and then go manic. So, and I got so frustrated with it. And you know, even like last couple of years, I'm sort of like, well, that was just part of the condition. I don't blame her. That's the condition. So I blame the illness, not her. But I understand your frustration with it. The medication is a big one. You just don't. You're sick. You take the medication. Like there's not much around it. But once you learn that that's just the condition and the illness, you just all the behavior sort of, for me, once you separate that's the illness and the talking and not the person. Once you separate that, it makes things a lot easier. Because when I started, I don't know about you, but did you ever see that with your mum? Did you ever just did you get to a point where you sort of said that's the illness talking, it's not her? Or were you never able to separate it?
I don't think I ever got there. Yeah, even today, like that's why it's so hard to see her, because I feel like it's still so blended for me, you know? And I know, like, there's a part of her that's like my mom, and a part that's the illness. But like, there's also like the angry part of me that's like angry at the universe, where it's like, no, but I want a different mom. I want a mom that's, you know, that's better, you know?
Yeah, it's a thing to want, but I'm the same as you, and that's all I wanted. But you just can't have that. And the way I look at it now is, well, I'm the next step. You know, I can make my own family now, and I can do it the way it should have been done, and I can correct the right, and you can be the bridge to make make it right, and then you can have that sort of motivation. But must be tough, 10 years not being able to. And I respect that courage, because I think a lot of our people in a situation, you tend to put the parent before yourself, feeling wise, emotional wise. You just put them before yourself, and whereas you need to be a bit selfish almost in a way and put yourself first. Then it's on your terms, it's not on their terms, which I think is the big thing.
Yeah.
Whereas my mum used to call me 5 or 6 times a day, even though I used to tell her, I'm at work, but I would answer or whatever. I felt guilty all the time. I felt guilty to take the call. So, and then you sort of say that my boundaries is call me once a day, that she'd ignore it. I just wanted to tell you this one, tell you this. So, and it really got me frustrated. But after a while, that's the condition. Or I'll turn my phone off. I don't have to answer that call and not feel guilty about it. It took me a very long time. So how do you feel? Obviously, 10 years not speaking to your mum's very, very tough. But is it because you're, as you mentioned it before about obviously, emotions and stuff, which for sure would be there. But is it also more about you're prioritizing yourself first?
Yeah, I think to answer your question earlier, like how else have I changed over the last 18 months? Yeah, it's learning, like you put it a great way. How I'd put it is like learning to be kind of selfish, because I think growing up, you learn like, oh, mom needs all the help. I got to like put my needs down because mom's always like exploding and like having episodes. And it's like, I'm sad about like homework or something happened. No one's around to take care of it. So, little Miguel learned to just like push everything down. Everybody else comes first, not just mom, friends, other obligations. And it's like choosing like, no, I'm going to do like this, I'm going to try it for this musical. I'm going to like choose to like say no to like going to a friend's thing and just like being okay, like being a little selfish. And yeah, like I definitely felt for a long time that like I was up by like not being more stable, that I could go see mom because like going to see her would like close some sort of circle. It would make me like a good son again, a good nephew to all my like all of mom's siblings and everything, and like I would be doing the right thing again. But no, the truth is it would just knock me on my ass. It would like I would like have to like take a whole week off of life to just talk to like safe friends and be like it was really hard seeing her and everything, and just I don't know, having like the state of mind to be like I can't see her. Seeing her won't help me do what is like really important, which is like getting stable and stuff. And like, I'm not wrong for like not wanting to see her. And like, I'm not wrong for being like, I'm scared to see her and everything. But it was a really long road to get there. Cause like a lot of stuff you see on TV, especially around the holidays, it's like, oh, be around your family. Oh, but she's your mom. She loves you. Don't you want to talk to her? And like, like we talk about with the people who are like, just suck it up. It's like, you don't know what my life is like,
100%.
And like the pressure to like be jolly around the holidays or to be like buddy with family. And it's like, not every family is like that. And everybody's assumption that that's how it is with everybody. And you're just being a grumpus. And yeah, you call your mom more. It's like, you don't understand. You don't understand. So yeah, just having whatever it is, the bravery, the strength to be like, nah, I got to be selfish for Miguel in 2022, 2023, 2024, and like, I deserve to like do the things that I think are fun and cool and like are for me. I think that's a big sign of growing, learning to be a little selfish for yourself.
No, 100%. And I used to get the same thing. I had a ex-partner. I used to be really short with my mom on the phone because she would just call me for no reason. I was trying to do my own life, and every time she spoke to me, it always used to just trigger things with me, right? So I never like to speak unless it was really necessary. And I used to have my ex-partner go, "Why do you talk to your mum like that?" Blah, blah, blah. I said the same thing. I said, "You just don't understand what I was like growing up. You just don't understand." And I agree with you as well. People just don't understand until they go through it. And like even, psychologists and psychiatrists, it's very hard for me to have the respect for them in regards to, not that it could help me or not, but it's more that I didn't grow up in that situation. So it's very hard to have that level of that respect, because they're dealing at it from like a casebook level or from a textbook level. Whereas if they've lived through it, it's a different thing. But I think what you said is spot on. Looking after yourself and just people just don't understand, and they really don't until they go through it, which is why it's important for people like yourself to connect with other people in your community or even online Just try and connect with other people. Just, even if it's just, even listen to some content about someone who's gone through it, because then you, as you said, thinking you're alone in this situation is quite a common thing, when, as we know, statistically it's not the case. There's a lot of people who have similar situations. There's some famous people who grew up in these situations and don't say anything about it, which is a bit of a shame. But I think, hopefully moving forward, people start doing it as well. Miguel, I've taken more than an hour and a bit of your time. I was going to say, is there anything you sort of want to finish up with today, mate? I know it's night time over there, but is there anything you want to sort of say, or any final thoughts on this whole sort of new awareness movement? Because I think we're going in mental health awareness. We're shifting now. Obviously, depression and anxiety spoken about, which is fantastic, but it's really surface level. And now we're starting to hopefully see these other conditions like schizophrenia, bipolar, BPD be brought into conversation. But is there anything you want to sort of leave us with today?
Yeah, let's see what else. And Joel, man, I feel like we could just chat for another hour, and I'd be.
No, we could, mate. I've got to do another podcast at one.
Oh, no worries.
My job.
No worries.
So that's the reason why.
Of course. Yeah, just thinking about talking about psychologists who feel like this is just like another case to me. I feel like there needs to be more people in that position who've done their own work, who know it in their bones what it's like, and they've chosen to be a caring professional, a therapist, a psychologist in that way. Because if they haven't sorted their own shit out, how can they really be a help? And how can they not be cold? Because having another cold person in your life, whether you're an adult or you're a kid going to these people, that's the last thing you need. You need somebody who knows in their soul what it's like. And also just finding other dudes who are talking about it. Because this whole macho thing, and burn it to the ground, destroy it, man. It's only going to cause more harm. There's a lot of angry, sad, lonely guys out there, and they need to know that talking about it is I don't know, it'll save lives, man. Whether it's the anger in it themselves or anger outside, I think young men need to be talking about this stuff.
100%, and there's no negative to it. What's the negative? Some perceived loss of status, or some sort of, someone might say,
some sort of you're not being a man. Oh, men don't talk. Oh, you're being a girl. Oh, you're being feminine. And it's throw that shit out the window, man. I hate all that.
For sure.
It keeps people down.
The most masculine thing anyone can do is to be a better person and actually deal with their issues and not hide them. And I think people need to put their ego aside, especially with this sort of stuff. Because for me in Australia, there's a lot of people who went through this situation who have got some sort of notoriety or profile, and they don't talk about it in an open forum. And I'll give you an example, right? So our federal health minister, so during the lockdowns in COVID, his name's Greg Hunt. He shared his story when he was 50. This guy's a doctor, federal politician, has some profile. And he only shared his story about having a mum with bipolar, and there's some pretty horrible stories that happened when he was 55 or 60. I'm thinking, man, this guy's a federal health minister, can actually do something about it. Yeah. And he's only decided to share his story, I think it was 3 years ago or something. And even the funding that he didn't, and then he still didn't do much about helping young people in his situation that I really know of. So it's quite disappointing. But I think there's a lot of opportunity as well. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to start speaking up. And if they want to get passionate or behind causes, in Australia, a lot of people donate to one charity for mental health. I'm sort of nah, go and donate to these smaller ones where they have these they help out these young people. And I presume the states will be the same. There'll be a lot of organisations who hopefully might do work in this area who need a lot more support. And it's a really big impact changer, because if you can get into someone's life as an 8-year-old or 9-year-old and actually have some positive impact, and that puts them on a different path to being maybe a really productive member of society compared to someone who might have not been, just because you got involved here and you gave them a bit of self-esteem, a bit of confidence or whatever. Really, really important. And it wouldn't take a lot, but it just needs more people to talk about it like yourself. So thank you very much, Miguel, for joining me today. And hopefully we'll have you back on maybe some other time to see how you're going, and to hear more about your thoughts about the whole scenario with what's been happening with yourself. Because I think it's very brave for you to disclose all that. It's great to hear that that's what you do. And those exercises sound like a lot of fun, and something that I think, it's great to hear that it's helped you, which is really, really important.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's you and me, Joel. Yeah. That 50-year-old guy, that's his generation. It's guys like you and me talking about it, trying to be like someone else out there who's feeling lonely. Maybe they'll hear us and they'll feel a little less alone, Yeah.
I hope so, mate. We'll leave it on that, mate. Thank you very much, Miguel, for joining us today. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joel.